This video, lesson 6.2, video number 1, we'll talk about one-step equations. Here's a handout you're going to get on 5 steps to solving equations. Before we talk about these 5 steps, let's talk about the golden rule of solving equations. The golden rule right there in red is that whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you must also do to the other side of the equal sign. So keep that in mind. Whatever you do to one side, you must also do to the other side so that the equation stays balanced, so that the equation stays equal. Alright, so here are the 5 steps. Step 1 is take care of the parentheses. So if you're given an equation and you have parentheses in the equation, you need to eliminate the parentheses, which means get rid of them. That means use the distributive property. So you're going to have to distribute the number in front of the parentheses to eliminate the parentheses. That's step 1. Get rid of the parentheses. Step 2, add like terms. You add like terms on the left side of the equal sign, and then you add like terms on the right side of the equal sign. So we could say, look left, then look right. Just like you're crossing the street, you would look left, make sure it's all clear, look right, make sure it's all clear, and then you would cross the street. Same thing goes for like terms. Look left, then look right. So take care of parentheses, add your like terms. Step 3, get the variable on one side of the equal sign. So if you're ever given an equation and you have a variable on the left side and the right side of the equal sign, you must get the variable to be only on one side. It doesn't matter which side, but it has to be only on one side. Now, as we talk about getting the variable on one side, I would use the term move. Move means add or subtract. And to be able to move something, you use inverse operations. So if you're adding something on one side, to move it to the other side, you would need to do the opposite of addition, or the inverse of addition, which would be subtraction. So after you have your variables on one side of the equal sign, step 4, get the numbers on the other side of the equal sign. So if my variable is on the left, I want all my numbers on the right. If my variable is on the right, I want all my numbers on the left. Same thing, to move, I add or subtract. If I want to move my variables, I add or subtract them by using the inverse operation. If I want to move my numbers, I add or subtract them by using the inverse operation. So once you have all the variables on one side and all the numbers on the other side, then you're ready for step 5, which is solve. You solve for the variable by eliminating the coefficient of the variable. Solve means multiply or divide. Move means add or subtract. Solve means multiply or divide. And again, you would use inverse operations to solve for the variable. So that's a little quick run through of those 5 steps. But these 5 steps we will use to solve equations. Now, in lesson 6.2, we're pretty much only going to use step 4 and 5. Steps 1, 2, and 3 won't be in there yet because we're not going to start off with like super complicated equations yet. All right, but I want you to have these in mind and eventually memorize these so that you can solve equations. So in this video, for the rest of the time, we're going to go through 5 examples, and I want you to write these 5 examples down and solve them step by step with me. So here's example number 1. We're given this equation, 49 plus z equals -9. And we need to solve for the variable, solve for z. We want to know what z is equal to. Okay, so if I'm going through the 5 steps, step 1, I'm going to eliminate the parentheses. Well, I see I don't have any parentheses, so I'm not going to need to distribute. So I skip step 1. I go to step 2, add like terms. Remember, look left and then look right. So I'm going to look left. On the left side of the equal sign, I have 49 plus z. Can I add those together? You should say no, I can't, because 49 is a constant, z is a variable. All right, so I can't add those together. So I can't add like terms on the left side. Let's look at the right side. The right side, you have only one term. It's -9. And so obviously you can't add it or combine it with anything else because there's only one term on that side. So you can't do step 2 either. There's no like terms to combine. So let's go to step 3. Get the variable on one side of the equal sign. Well, it already is. I have a z on this side, but there is no z on that side. And so it's already on the left side. So I'm good on step 3. No need to move anything yet. So go to step 4. Get the numbers on the other side. So if my variable is on the left, where should I get my number at? Well, my numbers should be on the right side, because if my variable is on the left, my numbers should be on the other side, which in this case is the right. So I need to move 49 to the other side. So how am I going to do that? Move means add or subtract. So I need to do the inverse operation of what is going on over here. Or you could say I need to put the opposite sign of this number. So if this number is 49, it's positive 49. And so to get it to the other side, to move it to the other side, I would need to subtract 49. Or you could say I would need to add its opposite, right? Because you could either say I need 49 plus negative 49, or you could say I need 49 minus 49. So if I'm going to subtract 49 on this side, I have to do the same exact thing on the other side. I have to do the same thing on this side. So I subtract 49. Okay? After I do that, I'm going to draw one long line like this across the problem, because I need to simplify now. 49 minus 49 is 0. And if it's 0, I'm going to draw a diagonal line just like that to show that those terms cancel out. They go to 0, which is the whole point. I want those to cancel out. I want these 49s to be gone from the left side. So on the left side, all that I'm left with is z. So I'll write a z down. Z, I bring my equal sign down. Z equals negative 9 minus 49. So I have two negative numbers. Signs are the same, add, and keep the sign. So negative 9 minus 49 is negative 58. So what we're saying here is that z is equal to negative 58. That's my answer. I will circle that. I could check my answer. I could put z back into the equation, and the equation should be true. If I do that, 49 plus z, which is negative 58, equals negative 9. Let's see if that's true. 49 plus negative 58. So there the signs are different, so I need to subtract. 58 minus 49 is 9. And then I take the sign of the big guy, which in this case is negative 58, so my sign is negative. So yes, this is true. We solved this correctly. Z is equal to negative 58. All right, example number 2. T minus 17.1 equals negative 4.8. So if I'm going through my 5 steps to solve equations, I have no parentheses, I have no like terms to combine, my variable is already on one side, and so I'm pretty much skipping ahead to step 4. I need to get all my numbers on the other side. So if my variable t is on the left, let's get the numbers on the right. So I have a number right here, negative 17.1, that I need to move to this side. Okay, so right now on the left side I have t minus 17.1. So I need to use the inverse operation of subtraction to move it to the other side. So what is the opposite of subtraction? You should say addition, right? So I need to add that number to both sides. Add 17.1 to both sides. So I show I added to both sides, and then I'm going to draw a horizontal line across the whole problem. And then simplify. Negative 17.1 plus 17.1, well, that's 0. They cancel out, so I'll draw a diagonal line. That's the whole point of why I added 17.1, so that t, the variable, can be by itself. Right? That's what I want. I want the variable by itself. So I have t on this side. What do I have on this side? Well, I have negative 4.8 plus 17.1. Signs are the same, so I'm going to subtract. 17.1 minus 4.8 gives me 12.3. And then I take the sign of the big guy. The big guy is 17.1, which is positive. So my answer should also be positive 12.3. So t equals 12.3. If I plug that back into the equation, it should stay true. 12.3 minus 17.1 equals negative 4.8. Example number 3. Here we have 4x equals 64. Remember, you should read this part, 4x, as 4 times x. 4 times x equals 64. Okay? So, as we go through the 5 steps, I have no parentheses, I have no like terms to combine. My variable is already on one side, my x's are on the left. and my numbers are already on the right side. Right? There's no other numbers over here that I need to move to the right side. So I skip all the way to step 5, which is solve. Solve, it says, by eliminating the coefficient of the variable. Remember, the coefficient is the number in front of the letter, or the number being multiplied by the variable, which in this case is 4, right? Since it's being multiplied by x. So to get this variable by itself, to get the variable x by itself, I need to use the inverse operation of multiplication. So what is the opposite of multiplication? You should say division. I divide by what? I divide by this coefficient. I divide by 4. Now, if I do it to the left side, what must I also do to the right side? Divide by 4. Okay? So on this left side, I have 4x divided by 4. Well, 4 over 4 is just 1, right? That simplifies to 1. And if I have 1x, or 1 times x, that's just the same thing as x. X equals this, 64 over 4. Remember, this horizontal fraction bar means divided by. So 64 divided by 4, which will give me 16. Okay, so what we're saying here is that 4 times 16 will give you 64. Example number 4, I have x over 12 equals 3, or I could read this as x divided by 12 equals 3. Or I could read it as something divided by 12 is 3. Okay, so going through the 5 steps to solve equations, I have no parentheses, so I don't need to distribute. I have no like terms to combine. The variable is already on one side, it's on the left side, and my numbers are already on the right side. So I don't need to do steps 3 or 4 either. So step 5 is solve. I need to solve for that variable, solve for the variable x, by using the inverse operation. So what's going on right here? X over 12. X divided by 12. That's division, right? So what is the opposite of division? Multiplication. So I need to multiply both sides by something. What do I multiply both sides by? I multiply both sides by 12 so that these 12s right here will cancel, will simplify. 12, I could put 12 over 1. That's the same thing as 12. If I have 12 over 1, I can cross simplify those. 12 over 12 is 1, right? So I'm left with 1 times x, which is just x. That's what I have on the left side. On the right side, I have 3 times 12, which is 36.